have some fun and look at the Union Course Racetrack, which is one of the best stories about Woodhaven, I think. And parts of this should be made into a movie. It would make a great story. First, before we do that, we're gonna take a look at some events we have coming up here. First of all, if you want to join our mailing list, drop us a line at projectwoodhaven@gmail.com. He was a very, very big fan of horse racing. You can see these are all photographs that he took. He was a great photographer, and he would go to the track and take pictures. And one of my regrets is that he didn't live long enough to be involved in this presentation, because I would have loved to have him involved, because he was a big fan of horse racing and took many great pictures. And Walt was a great guy, and he passed away during COVID, January 9, 2001. Well, you wanna say something about Walt? You were very good friends.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about Walt, because I feel like he's still here, because I remember him sitting in these very seats as we were trying to save NEARS about a year before anybody ever knew what was happening. It was a small, I call it like a secret society of people that was really trying to rally with me to save it before it became public. And he was sitting in these very seats. We were planning, along with Carmela and a few folks that might be here, planning how to help. And he was just an amazing individual, very giving. I went to his church a few months back. They put his name on the wall because he was always volunteering services. He was an avid painter, so he used his skills to paint the church for free, just helping. And so I had to be there. I had to be there to see his name be memorialized. And so hopefully one day I'll find a way to honor him as well. As long as maybe on the 200th anniversary, I think that might be if we make it. But just thanks to his family, we gave him a memoriam honor a couple of years ago. But I get choked up because I just knew where his heart was, and he loved NEARS. He loved NEARS, and I'll figure out a way to really honor him as well. But thank you, Ed, for doing this.
Thanks a lot. All right. So we're gonna go back in time and talk about horse racing. You know, this goes back eons, the earliest days. As soon as humans figured out they could ride horses, and they started thinking, hey, it would be really good if we rode these things really fast. And then someone said, hey, I bet you I can do it faster than you. And said, hey, how much you want to bet? And that was it. All went from there. And this goes through 8 days of Greece, through England, and in the days in the UK, there was a horse called Eclipse, and this was the statement they would say about it: Eclipse first, and the rest nowhere. This was the horse. This was the greatest horse. In fact, there are, if you look it up, there are awards to this day that are named after this horse, Eclipse. Now, later on, we're going to be talking about a horse called American Eclipse. That's the one that was bred here and that raced across the street from us here. But it was this horse for a while. Like almost all the horses were named Eclipse, and it was named in honor of this horse here. And there's Eclipse right there. He was born in 1764, and you see his career record: 18 wins. That doesn't sound like a lot, right? I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of races, but you know, horse racing was a lot different in those days, because some of these horses would race dozens of miles, or even sometimes up to 100 miles as part of a race. So they didn't race them frequently. You know, it was spaced out. So he was a great racehorse that was known around the world. In the United States, one of the things that's always great about racing, and you can see it to this day if you go to a racetrack, is that you get a mix of social statuses. You'll get some wealthy people mixing in with your everyday regular people, and some oddballs as well mixed in there. And it's a really interesting array of characters when you go to a racetrack. Because there was a lot of gambling involved in racing, the powers that be in New York decided to make horse racing illegal in 1802. It was the Act to Prevent Horse Racing. And they basically said that it was immoral, but it also gradually opened the way to many other vicious habits. So they made it illegal. So what happened to New York? Because New York had a lot of horse racing going on. What happened was they turned their attention to breeding horses. So they started really. There was a couple places on Long Island that they would breed. That's my horse is breeding right there, little horse. And this is one of the real famous horses in history. The Godolphin Arabian. Godolphin was the name of the man who bred this horse. And this horse is considered to be one of the founders of the modern thoroughbred. And the famous horses, Seabiscuit, Man o' War, they were all directly descended from this horse. And we'll go on a little bit further. One of the horses descended from that was Messenger. And Messenger was another famous horse in the UK. And once his career had ended, he was purchased and he was brought to the United States by ship. And he was brought here, sold to Henry Astor, and then later sold to Cornelius Willett Van Rans. That's this gentleman over here. And he bought this horse and then put him out to stud and actually made a lot of money. People would bring their horses just so it would mate with Messenger. That was what Messenger did in retirement. So now we have American Eclipse, which was born to Messenger, was born in 1814 on Long Island. And again, because it couldn't race here, you had to race down south. So they would go down south every year, and you would have a race, and then he would come back, and he would win, and he started developing a reputation. The problem with going down south for a race is how did they get the horse down there in those days? Well, they would ride down there. So the horse would walk or ride all the way down south, and then have to take part in a grueling race, and it was not easy. It was a difficult existence. So in 1820, Cornelius Van Rans announces that Eclipse, who was about 6 years old at the time, was going to be put to covering. Basically, he's retiring, and you could bring your horses there, and you pay money, and they make the horses together. So that was it that is laid out, and that's where the Union Course Racetrack was. So for those of you familiar with the area, it ran from Jamaica Avenue to Atlantic and Rockaway, so it ran that way. And then this way it ran from 78th Street, which is right across outside from us, down to 84th Street. So it's quite a big footprint of the racetrack there. So the first race at the Union Course Racetrack, Eclipse took part in it. He came out of retirement, and he raced against a famous horse, Lady Lightfoot, who was undefeated at that time. And Eclipse won the race. And this gentleman right here, Samuel Purdy, he was the jockey. He's an interesting character. He was a jockey for many years. By this time, he was nearing his 50s, and he had gained a little weight, so his career was kind of ending. But he wasn't just a jockey. He was in real estate. He built houses and buildings, and he was also involved in politics. 76th Street down here was Purdy Avenue for a while in the early days, and it was named after this gentleman here, Samuel Purdy. And there he is there decked out in his colors. And we're going to see more of Purdy. He's a big part in there. Remember I said this story could be a movie? This would be great. He'd be a great character. I'm thinking Tom Cruise. Because he's, he's a little on the, So this is great. So they're having trouble getting horses coming up north from the south. They're having trouble getting horses to come up and race. So what they do is they go down south with American Eclipse, and they face off against this horse here, Sir Charles. And Sir Charles was famous. Sir Charles was considered to be undefeatable. You can't beat him. And they went down there, and what happened was on the morning of the race, Sir Charles was just going around the track, just like loosening up, and stepped on a rock and badly twisted its ankle, and could barely walk. Now, the rules in horse racing in those days, the way they looked at it, there was no such thing as like, oh, we'll wait till he gets better, or it's a forfeit. No, it was considered that American Eclipse beat Sir Charles, and the bettors had to hand over their money. They did end up trying to run Sir Charles for one quick heat, but he couldn't even run, and American Eclipse won pretty easily. There were a lot of people from the north down there, and you might imagine that when they won that horse race, they were very kind and magnanimous. No, they weren't. They rubbed it in. They rubbed it in because this was a big victory for them that their horse from the north beat this horse from the south, and they really rubbed it in, and that's when this guy comes into the story. Napoleon William Ransom Johnson, and he was the owner of Sir Henry, and he was very angry. So the people were down there. The people who were up here, they went down there. They had a big after party where they were celebrating, and he came in and he started insulting them. But like, the way they used to insult people in the old days, not the way we do it with curse words. They had like really fancy things, And he started really, so a heat is 4 miles, 4 times around the track. And it's best of 3. So if they run 3 races, that means the horse is going to run 12 miles that day. So it's not like the horse races of today where they run, for a couple of minutes, right? I mean, the Kentucky Derby is what is it they nickname it? The most exciting 2 minutes in sports, which is what my wife called our honeymoon. So they're gonna have a race, best of 3, 4-mile heats. We run against American in Union Course in March of 1923. And Johnson, he doesn't have to say what horse he's gonna run. He can produce any horse from the south on the day of the race, and that's it. So Van Rans said, "No, my horse needs a bit more time to rest," so they moved it to the last Tuesday in May. And then Van Rans told Johnson, "You can get any horse from anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter. You can pick a horse from anywhere." It was a really smart thing to do because there was no way that Johnson was going to put up a horse that was anywhere outside of the South. That was the place he was going to put it because it was a matter of pride. But it allowed them to use the phrase there, eclipse against the world, and that sold the story. So the thing to remember about this race that happened right across the street here is that it was different than other races before it, because first of all there was about 6 months notice before the race was run. Also at that time, people started, there was more and more newspapers around. People started reading newspapers more and more. So the word spread across the country about this race. And then also at that time, steamboats became very, very popular coming this way. So people could travel a lot further. The horses could travel a lot further. All of this happened at one time, and that's what led to so many people coming here. If you're interested in the story when it's done, there's a book out there called The Great Match Race by a sports writer called John Eisenberg, and it is a terrific book. It's a great book to read. It tells you the whole story about this in a lot of details. So here's Team South. These are the characters that we get to know here. We've already introduced you to Napoleon over there, and then there's the jockey, John Walden, the trainer, Arthur Taylor, and the other trainer, a young man named Charles Stewart. Charles Stewart was a giant map. Alan Smith, some of you know Alan Smith. He borrowed it from the Queens Historical Society and came and rolled it out on my table. And there's no way we could take pictures of it. So we ran out and got one of those portable little scanners and came back and scanned it into about 36 scans, and then it took days to piece it together into one map here. There's me and Alan working on it right there. It's an interesting map to see in the details. That, again, those of you who know Alan Smith, he really loved looking at the map. There's lots of details and oh crap, I'm wearing the same shirt.
shirt. But no hat. You said you always wear a hat.
Yeah. I was at home, so.
Oh, okay.
So there's the racetrack right there, and to give you an idea where it is, we're looking at the same map right here. You can see where the racetrack is. It goes down to, I don't think the little button works here. It goes down to Atlantic Avenue here, and then Jamaica Avenue down here on the south side of Jamaica Avenue. and you've got 84th Street to Snedeker Avenue, which was 78th Street outside here. And if you're wondering where Nears was in relation to it, there's Nears Cat Tavern right there. It's on that first corner. So basically the far turn of the racetrack. Over here is the entrance. This is about 90th Avenue, and right there are the grandstands. So this is the final turn right here. Is where we are. So it was one lap equaled 1 mile 30 feet. They were saying it was 1 mile, but the guy I was telling you about before, Napoleon, when he showed up here, it was his first time at the track. He wanted to inspect it, and the track was immaculate. It was a dirt track. There was no rocks,
perfect.
No twigs,
Thank you.
No stones. This was a nicely laid out track, and he walked around it. But when he got to the finish line, he said, "That's more than a mile. That's more than a mile." So they had to go and measure, and they went and measured again. And sure enough, it was 1 mile 30 feet. That's something that you could be able to figure that out. I don't know how many times I've got my navigators telling me something's coming up in 1,000 feet. I have no idea what that means. So again, each heat was going to be 4 laps around the track. So basically, a bit over 4 miles for each heat, and a best of 3. So the night before the race, just outside of the racetrack, they set up some tents and some lanterns, and they brought in some lobster for people to eat. So everyone sat there and they had a nice lobster dinner. These were all competitors and friends and enemies, and that must have been some kind of thing to see here at that time. But they had this late night thing. So now the morning of the race, you gotta say, what a chaotic scene it was here. People were coming over from Manhattan on ferries, and then when they would get over to Brooklyn, if they were lucky enough to catch some kind of carriage to get over here, they'd be able to get. Otherwise, people just had to walk. A lot of people came a few days ahead of time. If you had money, you could stay at a hotel, but there weren't that many hotels. A lot of people just ended up sleeping out in the, sleeping rough, sleeping under a tree someplace. But a lot of people came in the day of the race, and it was a throng of people coming down Jamaica Avenue, coming down Rockaway Boulevard, coming from all over. And most of them, they would make their turn either on Rockaway or on Jamaica, and they would come right up this street, right out in front of where we are. Hundreds, thousands of people just streaming up to go to the racetrack.
What was the date of the race set?
This was May 1923. I think May 23rd, 1923. 1823.
Okay.
Boy. It was a trick question. So the morning of the race, people coming over on the carriages, and in one carriage, as they were riding, as they were bouncing around, there was a mysterious character that was on the carriage. We're gonna see him in a minute here. You can see the. This isn't pictures from this. These are just pictures I saw on the internet to give you an idea of what a crowd looks like. There we go. There's our mysterious character of the day. There was one gentleman there that he had his top hat, all pulled up. And he was kind of hidden, and he was going to see the race. He'll come back. That's why I introduced him.
Is it Boy George?
So one of the things that was kind of cool about this race, this is a flagpole in Brooklyn, in which it could be seen in Manhattan. So they had arranged that they would fly up colored flags when they would get the results of the race, and then they would be able to see it in Manhattan. And then in Manhattan, they went to the other side, raised flags, and in Jersey they could see it. So that was how they were communicating the results of the race. Everyone wanted to know who was going to win this race. On that morning also, Napoleon Johnson woke up a little sick, and he blamed the lobster. As a result, he was unable to go to the race. He had to stay in his bed, and he was staying in a hotel just nearby, so he could hear the racetrack, but he just couldn't get up. Every time he would go to get up, whoa, he'd go back down. So that was it. He was out. That was a big advantage for American Eclipse, because he was a very smart. He was a smart trainer, and as it turns out, a crucial decision comes up to make, and he was not there to make it. So here we go, the great race, and again, as people are coming in, this is Snedeker's Hotel, which was on Jamaica Avenue, and I know it's amazing, right? This is Jamaica Avenue here, and in that hotel, this is where all the horse breeders, trainers, owners, this is where they would congregate. They had stables, they had mini tracks in the back that they could train on, and on that morning, they're all pouring out of there. They're all heading to the racetrack. They're coming down from Jamaica, down Jamaica Avenue, and down Atlantic Avenue in Rockaway, and then they're also coming in from Brooklyn this way, and then they're all going up Snedeker Avenue, 78th Street, right out here. They're all heading to the racetrack. There's Nearest Tavern. So all these people, the Nearest Tavern wasn't here yet. Remember, this is 1823, but they were passing right outside this street here. And then they would go in. The ones that didn't have seats in the grandstand would just go around the outside of the track. $60,000 people. 60,000 people, and they had that one entrance there, and they were able to really figure out how many people came in, and they kept track of the seats. But 60,000 people came to watch the race. Consider that's like right now, every single person in Woodhaven. We have about 60,000 people here in Woodhaven. Amazing, right? And all those people, imagine cramming into one spot.
Did they have to pay an entrance fee to get into the race?
Yes, absolutely.
And who got that money?
The owners of the track,
Just,
which at that time was a man named Shaw, that Shaw Avenue was named after. All right, so we're getting ready to to get started. It's up on the in the tower, and on the steps of the judges' tower. It starts drumming. The crowd tense, and there was a murmur. Right, murmur. That's the old stage trick when you need to have a crowd talk and you have people go murmur, 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 murmur. Sound like the whole crowd murmured, and then they're off. And they're off. So the race starts again. Remember, it's a long race. It's going 4 miles, and right off the bat, Sir Henry gets off to a lead. It's a small lead, but he's holding that lead the whole way. And they go around the track, first time, second time, third time, and by that time, the jockey on top of American Eclipse, Billy Crafts, he's getting very, very nervous because he just can't catch up. So what he starts doing is he starts whipping the horse really badly. I mean, very, very badly. And this gentleman here, actually, I think I have his name there. He writes under the name The Old Turf Mill, and he wrote sports articles. He wrote about it, and he said that all of them were absolutely horrified at the beating that American Eclipse was taking. Sir Henry ran the first heat 7 minutes and 40 seconds, which was a world record. That was Sir Henry. But American Eclipse also ran a world record. He was just a few seconds behind him. But what happened was when he came off the track, the jockey had whipped his testicles so bad that they were bleeding. They were bleeding. And he had to limp off the track. Thank you for that. Thank you very much, Lloyd.
I knew it was coming, I just didn't know what angle. I was waiting for him to start saying bounce the balls like the horses.
So as the horses come off, people are looking at the jockey and they're very angry. And some people had to be held back from attacking him. And the owners, Van Rans and Stevens, they came aside and they said, we don't want him going back on the horse anymore. We need a new jockey. But they hadn't come prepared for that. So they started looking around and someone said, hey, you know what? I saw Samuel Purdy. I saw him walking by. He didn't want me to see it was him, but I know it was him. So they were like, get him. So they went running through the crowd, and because they said Billy Crafts was gone, and literally they told him, go, get off the track, get out of here, and he was just escorted off the premises. Remember our mysterious man from before? Well, he came walking up, all dressed up, and he came walking, and they were like, hey, Sam, how are you? There was some small talk, and they finally had to ask him, would you ride? And he was like, I don't think so. And they were like, but John Cox Stevens, he went on to some fame. He was the first Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. And in 1851, he won the trophy that would later become the America's Cup. And there's Purdy again there. So you can see here, this is from his obituary, Alderman Purdy. This is when they're talking more about his political career and stuff. But again, he was into real estate and building. He built houses and buildings throughout this area and in Manhattan. And there's there's a bench near his near his grave at St. Paul's Chapel, the churchyard in Manhattan. For years after he died, someone would come on his birthday and they would leave his colors, his horse racing colors, until it was one day it stopped. And you can see it's just sits there all these years later. No one knows what happened to Billy Crafts. After that day, he just disappeared. Napoleon Johnson, that's a better picture of him. He's got one heck of a head of hair, hasn't he? there's a marker for him down. I think that's in Virginia. He went into politics for a while and achieved some. The Napoleon of the Turf was his name. As far as Walden and Taylor, they kind of faded away in obscurity. But Charles Stewart is an interesting character in the story. Because at the time of this, he was like 15, 16 years old. But he went on to live a very long life, and was immortalized in one of the paintings by Edmund Troy, one of the few African Americans to be immortalized in a painting of that era. I mean, he was a very, very well respected breeder and trainer of horses at that time. So in later years, when he was in his 70s, near 80s, he wrote a book, My Life as a Slave, which came out and is remembered today by a marker down again, I believe that's in Virginia.
Thank you.
A lot of this you can see if you go up to Saratoga, to the Hall of Fame. They have a corner that's dedicated to the Union Course Racetrack, and you can see the actual paintings there. You can see them. If you ever go up to Saratoga, I don't know how many of you go to the racetrack at all. Okay, you do. Today's the Woodhaven Stakes over at Aqueduct. So, but if you go there, you can in that corner and in that room, they have a lot of stuff on the Union Course, including this one case dedicated to Samuel Purdy with his colors, and I don't think that's his colors there. See that little orange thing down there? That's part of his colors down there. That's not his color, but that is his riding crop. And there's the book. If you're interested in this story, this is a book to read. It's the only book that I've read twice in a row. I mean, like I actually finished reading it, and like a week later, started reading it again. It's that enjoyable. As big as that race was, so there's the Methodist church that was built. Again, they built it on Shaw Avenue. They chose that location because it was right in the center of the racetrack, and that's the church that was there. And again, this is the 1890s, and believe it or not, this church is still standing to this day on 80th Street. I tried getting in touch with them. I'm sorry?
Epworth. They used to call that Epworth. My daughters went to preschool there. It used to be a Protestant school.
Yeah, I believe it's Chinese.
It's Chinese now.
Yeah.
But it used to be a preschool for the area.
It's interesting, if you look at that building, if you go there, you'll see a, what do they call these? The cornerstones with the date? You'll see one there, 1895. But if you walk around the building, you'll see another one that says, 1912, and another one says 1928. This place has been built, and pieces have been added on, and whatnot. When you look at from the side, you can see it's like different things. So these things came out of it, and eventually, once they start selling, you've got some articles in the paper where they're talking about the old days of the horse racing, and a lot of these places are just sitting kind of run down and just falling to pieces. There's the map of the area that the Union Course Racetrack was. I sat and counted all the houses on the footprint. I counted 3 times to make sure that I got it right. How many properties do you think were on the Union Course Racetrack?
Presently now?
Well, yeah. How many do you think they built? Yeah.
630.
630. Okay. This is like Price is Right. You're okay. We're gonna see who gets it without going over. Anyone else want to take a guess? 700. 700. Susan.
439.
439.
That's just 2 blocks right there.
701.
701.
One house, one house. They're all over.
Here we go, you ready? Drum roll.
500. Oh.
That tells you how big Union Course Racetrack was. 987 properties, you know, were on that footprint. Some of these buildings stuck around for a long time, into the 30s and 40s and 50s. Hiram Woodruff's home was there into the 30s. The blacksmith. The blacksmith there, you can see there, he's there. There's the elevated train right there. He was. They were there until the 1940s. Hiram Woodruff's Roadhouse sat on Jamaica Avenue there and became part of Dexter Park. It was the Dexter Park Hotel, which was there until the 50s. And then finally, the one character we mentioned earlier, the old turfman. So the old turfman, he watched that race from horseback, the one in 1823. He was the one that wrote about, and told people about Billy Craps that day. He was the one that alerted everybody to it. And the old turfman, he wrote for many years under that name, and his name was Cadwallader R. Colden, which is a name that, for those of you familiar with Nears here, will be familiar with, as he is. What do we say he is? What is he? Lloyd? He's the founder, or Ina? Is he the founder of?
He was the manager of the racetrack.
Of the racetrack. Okay. And the racetrack being right across the street, we had a place open up here under the name, and if I missed any of the names, tell me, but the Blue Punk Room, the Old Abbey, and then finally Nears.
Union Course.
Oh yeah, Union Course, right? Union Course. Right? Yeah, I was kind of going the old days, yeah, because it's actually Union Course right after Nears, and then Nears again.
Yeah, right, it was Nears, Union Course, Nears.
There's a picture after the Nears family purchased this establishment, and while you're here, take a moment to look around at some of these great pictures around the outside. And here we have another picture. This is from I think this is 1933, in which you see Lewis Near Social Hall, and I know a lot of you may look at some of these old pictures and look at the building there, and then take a look at the building here and say, it doesn't really look like the same building. So I'm gonna can you hand me that there, the building?
No, you should have told me, Kim. All right, so it's on you. Got it.
So this is a model of Nears Tavern, which we can pass around, and you can, I'll put it in the case there, and you can I'll pass around. You can pick it up and play with it. I didn't bring my Nears action figures, so you'll just have to imagine. But you can take off the top there, and you can actually put the pieces together and fit it up, and you can see the old version of the building as well. So it'll give you an idea how the architecture is of this building, of how it went from one, basically how it went from that to this. And there's a little comparison. The real one is in the back. But feel free to to put it together and whatever, and And again, I love talking about the racetrack. I love talking about it here, and letting everyone know the history of this great place. And want to thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you.
And once we finish, we're gonna move out of here real quick because there's gonna be live jazz music coming up shortly. So for those of you that want to stick around for that, but I want to thank you all for coming out today. It's been great seeing you.
Great job,
Thank you.
guys. Great job.
Hey guys, you're more than welcome to stay for jazz if you do want to finish your meal or have something else. The host for today just came out of the restroom.
Hi, Nancy.
Nancy, so you do have time, stick around, she's amazing. We do this because of a grant that's provided to us, otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford to do it. So thank you so much for participating. And Kim, thank you for organizing as well. Thank you, Ed Wendell.
I don't know, it's Papa.